Welcome to another episode of the Footballers Global podcast, where this week we are going to be discussing all things scouting. We are lucky to be joined by Colin Chambers, the Education Director for the International Professional Scouting Organisation, who are a strategic partner with Footballers Global that ensures the safeguarding of our players on Footballers Global. We're going to be digging into what IPSO does, what it takes to become a scout, and we're going to be discussing what a scout looks for in a player. So without further ado, let's dive straight in. And we're going to kickstart today with a question directed at Rob, because obviously this partnership was something that you identified at the very start of the setup with Footballers Global. Why did you identify IPSO as a sort of key strategic partner, and how did that come about?
As I said on the first podcast that we done whilst we was building a support network for players, we come across that first question that every player would ever want before any support is, do you know any scouts? you know, and if you do know scouts, who are they and where they from and blah blah blah. So obviously that sort of got into my head, and I was like, right, okay, so to build this network, we do need some scouts on board to help bring it together. Obviously, started looking out there. There's some scouting organisations out there and certificates flying about, and you see it on social media, and we come across IPSO, and to be honest, it was the standard. The reviews that they get, from scouts worldwide, that stood out to us. It wasn't just based around the local, just the UK. They travelled the world, and it just stood out to us. And we thought, you know what, if we're gonna have some guys on board with us, then let's go straight to the best and see what they say. So we reached out to Colin. We went and met him in person a couple of years ago. Explained a little bit about what we was doing. And lucky for us, he was up for it, and he supported us ever since. And for me, like I said last time on the first podcast that we done, the player safety is huge for us. And by having Colin and IPSO, as a partner, that gives us a chance to actually get credible scouts rather than just invite. You just invite scouts, everyone knows a scout. Probably got a scout living opposite me, but they're not trained. They don't have the certificates. But again, with IPSO, we've got the certificates coming in. We've got the credible scouts, and that's where we can help these players reach out to these scouts, like I say, all around the world, with a peace of mind that they are trained by IPSO. And with our partnership, we have done a bit of vetting and trying to keep the online player safety to as high level as we possibly can.
Okay. Colin, can you give us a bit of a background into your experience and a quick sort of fire overview of IPSO for those people out there that may not know exactly what you guys do?
Yeah, well, I've been a professional football scout I'm in my 23rd year now. And I've luckily always been around the Premier League, Championship, and international football. So without sounding arrogant, the top end. And I'm passionate about the job, and I really do love what I do because it's enjoyable. It's not, I look at it, even though it's work, it's a hobby to me. And when I'm out working, I started to see other scouts, and my mentor, who was more fanatical about scouting than me, he was a freak. Yeah, he used to say to me, and this isn't me speaking, this is him. And this guy was called Ted Davis, and Ted worked for Charlton Chief Scout, and he worked under Terry Venables at England for 5 years. There was a few top clubs after him all the time, and Ted wouldn't go because he was happy and content at Charlton. And Ted used to say to me, when you go to a game, just look at the scouts. You will see 8 out of 10 aren't doing the job. You can tell. And he would sit next to me, and he'd say, look, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. Listen to every word he says. Listen to every word he says. And he would point them out, and he would tell me what they're going to do on what minute. He's going to get up now and go for a coffee. He's going to go to the toilet. He's going to do this. And it was just because his observation skills were fantastic. He's going to come in 2 minutes before the kickoff. He's going to leave with 20 minutes to go. So basically, what I'm trying to say is there were people abusing the job because
Mm.
people think anybody can scout.
Yeah.
And the truth is, and this sounds a bit Chinese, anybody can scout. But our question at IPSO is to what level?
Yeah.
Anybody can coach. Yeah. And what I said to that is I'm a coach as well, by the way. But and if somebody picks up a bag of balls and some cones and puts them down on a pitch and does a 7-a-side with some under 12s or whatever, they're coaching them. They might not be very good. But
Yeah.
whichever way you look at it, it's coaching. And it's the same with scouting. If you pick a pen and paper up, you think you're a scout. And the biggest problem in football for me in our job, scout analysis, is coaches. Coaches seem to think that because they get a coaching badge, they can automatically scout. And now it's going another way. People who are going to universities and getting analysis qualifications, which, performance analysis, think because they got their certificate, they can automatically scout. And they're
Yeah.
not realizing that scouting is a really, really difficult job. You
Mm.
know, and what happens is, and I feel a little bit sorry for all the young lads at universities and girls, obviously, because they're getting a 3-year degree in performance analysis, and then they're going to a club, and you'll get a chief scout, someone as experienced as me, and they'll say to them after they've done the stats and the data to look at a player, then they'll say, "Oh, can you go and look at him live?" And the young student goes and looks at him live and haven't got a clue. But yet they've done the English FA level 1, they've done the English FA level 2. And the truth is the English FA level 1 and 2 are very, very simple and basic. They're not detailed and proper scouting, what I would like to say, like we deliver.
So who would you say like your core sort of audiences or the people that come through you to want to train and develop as a scout? Who's your
Oh, well, do you know what, Liam? Right, it's changed. It's
yeah.
changed because we've been going 9 years. And when I started off, I'm going to give you two answers. Because when I started off, we were looking at people coming to their end of their careers. We were wanting to get into scouting. We were looking at people coming to retire, 50, 55, 60, whatever, looking to retire. What can I do for a hobby? This scouting is a hobby and they can get into it, get a bit of pocket money for doing something they love, and etc., down those lines. But now it's for everybody because we've evolved as a company. If you looked at our workshops and courses now and what they were 5 years ago or 2 years ago, they're completely different because you've got to keep up how the game changes. When a goalkeeper now comes out the area and the centre backs can go in the area, tactics have changed. So the players' roles have changed. So now the attributes of a player has to change. So we've got to keep up with the Joneses. You know what I mean? You've got to keep up on top of the game because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. So what we prefer to say now is we look anybody can come on ours because we're giving instead of scouting analysis, what we were at the beginning, we're now giving football intelligence and game knowledge. That's what we think we're giving, right?
Yeah.
Because that is what's involved in scouting. The more we've looked at it, because if you think what a scout does, they look at kids, they look at first team players, they look at opposition analysis, they look at the team, they look at tactics, phases of play, and it's just getting cleverer and cleverer and cleverer and deeper and deeper and deeper because of all the tactics coming out with your Pep Guardiolas and your Klopps and your 4-3-3s and everything's inverted fullbacks, inverted wingers. It's getting very football chess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where the intelligence and game knowledge comes in. And that's where we've evolved and gone to.
Do you get a lot of professionals or scouts that have maybe been in the game for 5 or 6 years but never actually had a recognized qualification coming in and saying, right, actually, I feel I'm at a point where the game is changing so much. Maybe I'm not keeping up with the way I'm like visualizing it or watching it or marking it, and I need to retrain myself. Is there a lot of professionals out there that
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a lot. There's not a lot, but you do get some. You do get some, and this is the best because we've had academy scouts from Burnley, from Preston, from Blackburn, from everywhere. Right? Come on to, and I'm talking blokes like us, not
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
And they've come on just to have a nosy, just have a look, just to pay 20 quid, just have a quick look at a workshop, and they've gone, whoa, this is different. This is not what I got taught with the FA. This is deep. No one's shown me this. And they start to realize that they've only been shown the basics.
Yeah.
But we're showing them stuff that they'd never seen. And they've been, I'll give you an example. We had one guy, it was up in, I think it was Yorkshire way, and he's been scouting 10 years. And he thought he was clued up. And he was a bit embarrassed at the end of the workshops because he said, Colin, I'm going to hold my hands up and say, I thought I was clued up, but you've shown me so much new stuff. No one's ever shown me this before. I said, I know, because it's not on the Scottish FA, the Welsh FA, the English. It's not like we're different. We are very, very different.
Well, I mean, I'm really interested to know, because obviously it's quite a big area. It's like, how many scouts would you say that are out there at the moment are actual physically qualified scouts? And how many are scouts because they say they're a scout because they may have played or been involved in the game for 10, 15 years, but they've never actually got the qualification to ensure, to allow them to do it?
Well, I'm not going to say, I'm going to put it in a different way. I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to break it down a little bit, because I think there's different levels. And I really do believe that. Because I think, like footballers, you've got your League Two, your League One, your Championship. I think you've got the same with scouts. Because when I've met a good scout, you can tell the way they talk, the way they throw the jargon about, the way they talk about tactics, the way they talk about positions. They're super knowledgeable. And then when you come down to the academy scouts, and I'm not trying to say academy scouts are less than first team scouts, it's two different jobs. Scouting kids is different to scouting first team.
Yeah.
But there's a procedure and a methodology of how you do it, and the way you look at a player. And I'll give you a basic example. First thing you've got to do is you've got to look at the team shape. Second, you've got to look at the player's position. Is he a defender? Is he an attacker? Then you've got to look at his job in the team. Then you've got to look at, is he doing his job? Then you've got to look at the players around him. They don't do that. They just go and look at him touch a ball. And then they start taking notes from when he kicks the ball. Scouting is all about off the ball, because when you look at a player, they only touch the ball for 90 seconds to 2 minutes max if you're Ronaldo and Messi. And if you look at extra time in every game, let's just say every game has 3 or 4 minutes extra time. So let's just say they have 2. So for 90 minutes, they're not touching the ball. That's scouting. And that's what we bring to the table. And going back to what your question about the 100, I would say there's 25%, let's say level 4 scout, a beginner scout. Then a little bit higher than that, you've got another 25%. That takes it up to 50% out of 100 who are okay, but not super, couldn't do first team scouting, can't go deep. Then you've got the 75% who are okay and have a little bit more of an understanding. And then the last 25% are your proper scouts who know it inside out, professionals who I'd like to say someone like myself and other people like me who's been doing it a long, long time.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, in terms of people that are out there stating that they're a scout, but they're nowhere near.
3/4 of them.
They shouldn't legally be able to, because obviously I know Robert sees it a lot on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of, people that are claiming to be scouts and they're not. And, again, this leads back to safeguarding on the site and the importance of the partnership with IPSO, where players are getting pulled into opportunities that are not genuine opportunities. And that leads me back to the question of people that are out there saying, I'm a scout, but you're not really a scout. So basically people trying to scam young lads that, are desperate for an opportunity. So yeah, I mean, I know that's something that Robert's sort of very passionate about trying to clamp down on, and hence the relationship with you guys.
Yeah, well, I would probably say, we're going to break it, I would say 70-30. I'd say 30% really top good scouts and 70% of people just starting off, just beginning, messing about, not doing it properly, and just, you know what I mean? That sort of stuff.
Okay. So an interesting thing that sort of came out in a conversation that we'd had on previous calls, Colin, was about the work that you're now doing with schools and the work that you do with teams to help them understand what scouts are looking for them before they go into a gameplay situation. And it would be really good if you could kind of give a bit of an outline about how that sort of program works, and where you've done that and what schools you've gone into, and I know you've gone to different countries to sort of deliver this as well. But I found that sort of a very kind of, it was a string to your bow that I didn't know that IPSO offered. So it was
Well,
very insightful in that respect. So I feel it will be extremely insightful for our audience as well.
well, I can't give too much away on this because we keep a lot held back for the certain reason, because everybody's copying everybody this day and age. You know how it works, and we try to hold a lot back in reserve. But I will give you a little bit of inklings. We go into schools and we show the kids what scouts look for, right? And because the story is this: we did a course at the National Football Museum, and this scouts bloke said to us, "Colin, loved your course. It was great, blah blah blah, all the niceties." And then he said, could you bob round to on my football team in Liverpool? I'll pay you, and could you do a little talk to them about what scouts look for?" And I'm like, "I can do more than that. I'll throw a PowerPoint together." So I put a PowerPoint together, and I went over and I delivered it, and I showed the kids, not coming from not from a coaching point of view, but from a scouting point of view. There's two different ways of looking at it, right? And I thought, how would I like to be? What was it like when I was a kid? And I remember guys in the corner of the pitch at the corner flag with an umbrella, with the Mac up, and with a pen and paper. And you could tell it was a scout. Wouldn't it be good if I knew what he was thinking about me? Wouldn't it be good? So I put it into a workshop, and I went into schools and they went, "Wow, this is brilliant." Then I went into FAs. And then when I was in Estonia, because we worked with Estonia, Romania, I did the under 21s, I did the under 18s, and I did the under 15s. And it doesn't really matter what age, it's hard hitting, but it gives you the tips what a scout is looking for. And
Yeah.
people seem to think it's Johan Cruyff turns and dragbacks and things like that. You know what I mean? It's not. It's communication, it's movement, it's uh, looking interested all the time, it's reading body language. The first thing we're good at, a good scout is an expert body language reader. Yeah, because you got to remember, a scout is 100 yards away, mainly sat in a stand from a player. So you've got to read body language for the majority of your game. Yeah, that is super important, because how many times have you seen on television where Klopp or um, Pep Guardiola will turn around and say, "You've got to get into the player's head. It's about the character. It's about the personality." That's one of the things you've got to really read, and it's very difficult to do that. It takes time, but you've got to know where to. I'm one of them guys now, because I've been doing it that long, and this is something I say on the courses. I know when a fight's going to kick off in a pub between two blokes, two women, or whatever, because I can see the body language. But that's what police officers get trained. They
Mm.
get trained to see these before things happen, just by twitching their eye and the body, the clenching of the fist. Just little things are big things. And one thing that we did, again, we do things to order. We meet people like yourselves, and if everybody comes up with an idea, and I'll take it on board and I'll try to design it. And a lot of our students were very, very impressed with our observation skills. And they said, "God, I wish I could have your observation." I said, "It took 23 years to get these observation skills. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen not overnight." So we designed an observation course, and it's gone down like an house on fire, and people
Yeah.
love it, because that is what they need before they start scouting. And you'd
Mm.
be surprised at how many of the pretend scouts, or these the best word I want to use, not fully trained, because that's not fair to say they're bad scouts. It's wrong, but they're not fully trained. They're going to a game and they haven't got the observation skills that they should have for when they're looking, and they're not looking at the tactics properly. They're not looking at the shape of the other team properly. They're just going off their observation of the player, which isn't quite right.
Do you think that's just purely because they think they know better? Is that,
Sometimes,
do you know what I
sometimes.
mean? Or is it just, I've been in the game for so long. I've seen so many different players, watch them. I can spot a good player a mile away, but give, does that really give them legal right to be a scout and be able to pick a player out? Are they, yeah,
Well,
I don't think it does, but
no,
um,
it doesn't. But I can see what they're doing. Look, there's a lot of arrogance in football. Whether you're a football player, whether you're a manager, whether you're a scout analyst, there is arrogance, because it's a privileged job. And what people like to show off, and how many times have you been in a game and someone says, "I think they're going to win 3-1. I think he's going to score here." How many times have somebody taken a free kick and you go, "He's going to score"?
mm,
I've done that millions of times. And do you know what? it's on the observation course because he's going to score the way he's lined himself up, the way the keeper's marked. It just looks so obvious that he's going to score. And how many times do you say taking a penalty? He's going to miss. He's going to miss because he's nervous. His hands are shaking. You can see little things where they're uncomfortable. It's a semi-final of a cup, and we're not talking professionals. We're talking kids in an under-18s game. Do you know what I mean? And certain players taking the wrong things. Giving the armband to the best player who's not. It should give the armband to the best captain, not the best footballer. And most teams at grassroots level give it to the best player. And there's a Roy Keane on the pitch, and there's a talker and an organizer like Didier Deschamps.
I think you can spot when a player's going to miss a penalty. I think
Yeah.
you can always kind of tell. There's just always something. It's like
Your experience.
always something that makes you call it. Like if there's always something when you look into
You're
their
right. And it's the run up. It's the way they stood. These little things make a big. And this is what we teach. It's the way they put the ball down, the way they look around, the way there's so many different things. And you'll be fascinated when you see the observation course. And we pick up on this.
Is that something that's available to academies and schools and clubs, like openly? Is that a course you have on?
Available. It's available to everybody. I've knocked on the door on a few football clubs, and I've got my foot in the door, and then it's been slammed shut a little bit because all the football clubs work with the English FA, and let's be honest, we're a competitor to the English FA because we're doing the same as them. We're giving education, and then the football clubs don't want to use us because they're going to upset the FA because they get funding from the FA. Do you know what I mean? So it puts a little bit of a spanner in the works working with club. But I have tried to get into them on several occasions, and I've almost got in there, but not. But when I go to semi-professional clubs and I go to schools, universities, no problem.
Yeah. What's the youngest age you can start learning to be a scout from an educational perspective?
Right. Well, to be a scout, I'd say 13, around 13. We've had kids coming on. Well, the reason they've come on, they've not come on just to be a scout. They've come on to learn the game. Do you know what I mean? They're footballers and stuff like that. We have a normal to come on to be a scout. We have it saying 16 years of age, right? 16 years to come on. I don't believe that now because I've had a couple of dads said, "Do you mind if my 13-year-old sits in and watches?" And they've took on more than the dad. Do you know what I mean? Because the kids are into it now. They watch Match at Day. They're on their mobile phones all the time. So videos is a really big tool. And again, we've got lots of workshops where we've got position specific now. You know what I mean? Which make a big difference. And they're not. This is the beauty. They're not coaching courses. I remember I had Tony Craig. Tony Craig was the goalkeeping coach for Newcastle. No, not Newcastle, Carlisle. Tony's an ex-player, used to play for Newcastle, played for a few top teams, professional. And he came on our goalkeeping workshop. Right? He came on and he was in his hotel room. And Tony just paid the 20 quid it was and just come on because he had nothing else to do. So this is a professional goalkeeper specialist. And when I realised who it was on, I thought, oh, this is going to be a bit of trouble now because he's a specialist in this field. And I'm talking about goalkeepers. I'm a scout. I'm a good scout, but I'm not a super specialist on goalkeepers like he is, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He came on and he was so good, so nice. We bounced off each other like Ant and Deck. And we had a real good rapport. No, we did. We had a right good rapport. And afterwards, I phoned him up and I said, "Hey, Tony, thanks for helping me out on that bouncing off." Because it was like giving my opinion, which would be a good one from a scout's opinion, which would be 80% right, 90% right. But he will take it that extra 5-10% with the detail, where the hand should be, where the arm should be, positional play. And it was brilliant. And I said to him, "Why don't you work for us?" So he did. So now Tony helps us when we do the goalkeeper workshops. He comes on as like I say, Hampton Deck. There's two of us now deliver it, and it's brilliant. And it's really good to see a scout's opinion and then a specialist's opinion. But when we say specialist, don't forget the scout's a specialist because he's a specialist in scouting. But this is a special position. It's a goalkeeper. So when you look at a goalkeeper specialist compared to an ordinary scout like me, it's chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
I'll be good. He'll be brilliant. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's his job with the detail, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, see, Liam, this is why we reached out to IPSO because of the passion, and that's what we wanted to get on the platform because we're all passionate about looking after the players and giving the players the support and advice that they need. So the beauty now of having a podcast with Colin on it is the players can see now, instead of just asking, do you know scouts, they can see now the relationship we have with IPSO, and the passion that IPSO have got. And Colin is the head tutor, so if you're getting trained by Colin, he's not gonna sign a certificate unless you pass the
Oh
you
no,
pass the
that's a
courses.
big one. That's a big one.
So exactly that. So Colin signs these certificates for the scouts, and they're the scouts that Footballers Global now are bringing in. So that's just a little heads up for the players to, if the scouts are putting in the, investing in themselves, putting in the time and the education. This is where the players have got to step up their game now and get the footage together and get the CVs together, and really put a little bit of work in themselves, because, like Colin said, with a trained eye, these scouts are going to spot within a couple of minutes whether you put in the work or not. If you're not putting in the work, they know there's another million kids out there that are putting in the work. So yeah, this is just the beauty of being involved with IPSO. And just going back maybe 5 minutes ago, you was mentioned about the youngsters joining the courses. Whereas again, with Footballers Global, we do sort of talk about the plan B. The percentage of players that make it is very, very slim, very, very small percent. Now, there's other options to work within the game. So even the players on our platform, if they want to get into scouting and think it's something else to do whilst they're playing, later on in life, if they don't make it as a professional, they've got the qualifications to try and stay within the game doing some scouting, or there's other ways to stay in the game.
Yeah, we found that our courses, going back to a couple of questions you asked earlier, Liam, our courses now are good for journalists,
Mm.
good for what do you call it, physios, so they understand the football a bit better. They know how they get in their injuries, the way they're playing. Do you know what I mean? And in tactics, and if you ask a player to do too much, like let's just say a wing back, and he's got to go up and down, you're taking that's a lot of pressure on that kid. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Player,
Yeah.
whoever it is.
Well, I mean, one of your courses is match reporting, so obviously I can see why that would be beneficial for the reporters. How many people would you say go through the whole course in terms of through every single workshop, start to finish? Because
Oh,
do you get some people that would just come in and go, "Oh, I want to do the centre back analysis," or
yeah, but do you know what usually happens? What usually happens is they come on and they just want to do that. I just want to do the centre back, but they get hooked because it's strong stuff.
go
Not
back
to
and
be
start
done.
at the beginning and come back through, or
Yeah, they usually carry on, but they spread it out because we advise them. I said, don't do one after one after one because it's a lot to digest. Do you know what I mean? If you look at the pathway, our
Mm,
pathway is specially designed because every workshop gets stronger. It doesn't go backwards and get weaker; it gets stronger. So that when you come at level 5, it's very, very hard,
yeah,
right? And I mean, a pro license coach would struggle on our level 5, right? And this is, what I mean by that is we're teaching people to do at least League One match reporting, which is not easy. It's professional level. You know what I mean? And when you're doing our position analysis, this is interesting. You can't get that wrong. If you get it wrong, it's a goal against or a goal for. Do you understand what I'm saying? If
mhm,
you make a mistake, the manager doesn't want guys who do this job and makes mistakes. If you make a mistake, your team's going to get beat. Managers don't want that. So you've got to hit the nail on the head. You've got to hit the ground running. You've really, really got to be experienced. Now, people say, well, how can you get that? Well, you do all the pathway to get the knowledge because you need all that knowledge in that match reporting because you're looking at everything. And then you don't go knocking on the door of a club. You go and practice and you get to standards. Send the reports back to us and we'll tell you where you are. We'll give you our feedback second to none because we're passionate. We want them to do well. What we don't want, the last thing you should be doing is going on a course, getting a certificate and go running to a club. I want to work for you.
mm,
Because your reports are not going to be ready. Think about it. If you're an electrician or plumber, you're a young lad, and you get your certificate as an electrician or plumber, do you go and say, I'm going to do that block of flats there? No, because you've not got that full knowledge, but you've got an idea how to fit a light bulb and the basics. Do you know what I'm saying?
mhm, mhm. But one of the interesting workshops that you do is bias in scouting,
Yeah,
which
it's one of my favourite ones. That.
yeah, which well, it's one of the early workshops, right? Isn't it? So
Yeah, there's a reason why we put it early.
yeah, because I kind of feel that's a sort of like right, guys, if you want to be a scout, you need to open up your eyes to
Yes.
seeing, and it
Well,
must actually, yeah, it must make people think completely different from the offset.
well, it sort of, if I'm being honest, in a nice way, it slaps them across the face a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah, it was kind of where I was going with the sort of opens their eyes, but
Because,
yeah, because it must make them realize it's like, oh, yeah,
well,
because it's natural to fall into that. I
I
know
can
we
give you
talk
some.
about
I can give you some examples. The bias, right? When we designed the bias, we looked at it and we went, we know when we've done. It's like writing a song. We know when you've written a good course, a good workshop, and we go, "Oh, that's a bit too good to put near the beginning. That should go a little bit higher up." And then when I've got my head right, because I take my time with everything, like a good scout should do. You don't jump in with 2 feet. You take your time. And I looked at it and I went, "Do you know what? If I was a scout starting off, that's the first thing you need. You need to get rid of these biases because even if I teach you how to look at players and how to do a lot of good things, but you're biased, what's the point?
yeah.
You're going to be favouring certain players. So the first thing you really need is bias. So one good thing about that is when people come on our bias workshop, they go, "Whoa, these guys are serious," and that's what elevates us over other people. That's not us talking; that's our students talking.
But how do you get them to overcome their bias? Because that's the challenge. Because
Yeah.
it's natural to be biased, right?
Well, yeah. Well, we show them
You know,
how easy it is to be biased, how you've got to look at yourself in the mirror, how you've got to keep talking to yourself, reflect, ask yourself questions. Am I doing this right? Am I being a bit biased on him? Are they a good team? Is he up against a good winger? Is he up against? Here's an example. You go to look at a fullback at a game, right? You're looking at the left back, and you look at left back, and you think, "I like him. I like him." And then you might not look at anything else. You look at the game and come away from it, you like him. But if you look to the other three fullbacks in the same game, both teams are playing four at the back. You can use the other three fullbacks to gauge his qualities because one of the fullbacks will be stronger in one area, another fullback will be weaker, and you can start to work them out. But if you're starting to be biased because you like attacking fullbacks
yeah.
and the tactics is defensive, you're not going to like him automatically. Are you with me? If you like defensive fullbacks and the tactics of the team is attacking, you're not going to like him. So straight away, you're off on a sticky wicket. You know what I mean? Because you're biased to certain things. It's very simple when you're going into bias. We teach you how to be impartial, how to do it evenly across, and it's not easy. Same with looking at statistics. Same with looking at leagues. People look at leagues and go, "Oh, we're not going to pick a player from Morocco. We're not going to pick a player from Egypt, and we're not going to pick a player from Algeria." But then you've got Mo Salah, you've got what's he called, ex-Man City winger, Mahrez,
Yeah.
and you've got Ziyech, he used to be at Chelsea. All them three play for them three countries. But
And then,
if you're Klopp with that hat on as you look like, yeah, if you're Klopp and you're his assistant, yeah, I'm going to come over to you and I say I've got to play for you in Morocco. He's going to say no, start looking in Portugal. No, players are all over the world, and the best thing is the Celtic manager. I can't pronounce his name. The guy at Spurs now, Poch
Pochettino.
whatever. What's his name?
Pochettino. Or,
Pochettino. Yeah, well,
or Al Pacino, I'm not sure. But
yeah.
Colin,
Well,
you need to stop mentioning Klopp because Robert's going to start crying in a minute. Right?
yeah, but that guy, you want to talk
Fresh
about
from Anfield.
scouting and bias? That guy at Celtic was amazing. He went straight in there and went back to Japan and picked out 4 or 5 players, and everybody started laughing at him. They weren't laughing when they won the league and all them players with the superstars. Now everybody's flying over to Japan to look at all the players in Japan. Japan's national team are beating everybody. Yeah.
Mm.
But if I'd have said to a normal scout, "Well, what about Japanese players?" They go, "No, there's a bias because it's a little country." No, biases need to be looked at. You need to look at it in a clear mind. And what we do on that workshop is we show you every bias in the book. And I tell you stories in my early careers where I made mistakes. I've made every mistake in the book.
Mm.
And it's usually because I'm biased to certain things.
So would you say before, like the likes of Arsene Wenger came uh, into the Premier League, the mindset was to be biased because everything was like they were looking more internally, whereas he brought in a different type of player, took a risk on certain players that were unknown, and I'm only using him as an example. And then that made people, be non-biased and actually look outside of where they normally look.
Yeah, I thought Wenger, when he came in, it was a breath of fresh air because he made Arsenal so unbelievable. The signings he made and the balance of the team, that's what the beauty of that was. Everybody complimented everybody. And, if you look, and when they had a weak link, like Man United did when they were in the prime, one player comes out and one player goes in, it doesn't look any different. You know what I mean? It's the same with Man City. Nobody's talking about Ferrandinho, company, David Silva. They're gone.
Mm.
The players who've come in have been brilliant and replaced them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's top scouting, and that's how it should be.
Robert, is there anything you wanted to add on that side of things?
No, I'm just grateful to have Colin join us, and from Footballers Global point of view to sort of put the relationship out there and show the players. Obviously, we recommend IPSO to all of the scouts, but now after hearing the ages that they're allowed, even the players can have a look at the courses that they do. It's all affordable, and and like Colin said, the youngsters are getting on these courses not to learn to scout, but to learn the game. So it is also something that can maybe help a player improve their game.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. They are specifically coming on to learn how a scout would look at them and what they can pick up from a scout's learning curve. Remember, the coaches teach them to play football, but from a scout's perspective, we're going to show you what a scout would look for to pick them up to take them into a club.
Exactly that.
Remember, the
Yes. So,
coaches don't take them into the clubs; the scouts do.
we can help get this out there to the players as they register. And again, the courses are online, aren't they, Colin? So
Yeah, they're online, and we're gonna put a special deal out for kids under the age of 16. You know, they can get it like for tennis, or it can be peanuts for them because they need the education. We're just trying to help people.
Mm.
Obviously, it's
exactly
cost
that. Yeah,
to cover things, but
exactly that. It's the same as us. It's just as much education out there as possible, working together, and things will happen. And
mhm.
that's sort of what Football is Global. That's the way that we look at everything. If there's a partnership where we can help the players, one of the biggest things for us is where the players come first. So if it's a benefit for the player, it's a benefit for Footballers Global. Um, yeah, and I'm looking forward to now really launching the new platform and seeing what's going to happen.
Yeah, jump onto the court, come onto the workshops, have a look at us. You're more than welcome.
Right.
Brilliant.
Are you rolling out any new initiatives in 2024? We're still sort of in the early stages. Obviously,
Well, we're in the
still
early
in
stage. Well,
January, so obviously there's a full year ahead. But is there any big initiatives that you're looking to roll out in the new
got
year?
a lot of irons in a lot of fires, and we're waiting for them to come back. I'll give you an example of one. All right. We're just obviously we're partners with the Ministry of Sport in Malaysia, you know, and we're actually talking. They've actually asked me to design courses for netball, rugby, and hockey from a scouting perspective.
Yeah, because I remember you saying about this previously that, obviously what is very much targeted from a football perspective can be,
Yeah,
rolled out across all aspects of
of
sports.
course it can.
And when you think about it, yeah, it absolutely can. So that's interesting to hear that's so that would be to go out to schools or to
Well, first of all, we're going to get it going with the Ministry of Sport over in Malaysia, and then I will be knocking on doors of schools, and we'll be doing that. You know, I'll do some demos, but it'll be a case of I will tailor it to match. Let's just say netball, but like, what do I know about netball? But
Mm.
then when you fetch a specialist in the room, I will talk about the scouting side, and they will talk about the technical side within the game, and it should marry.
And back again, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. But that's how it works.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big believer, you know, I'm a scout and I'll teach scouting, you know. And what you don't want to be doing, you don't want coaches teaching scouting courses. You don't want scouts teaching coaching courses. And what tends to happen in a lot of other educators, you get scout coaches delivering scouting courses. That's an electrician teaching plumbers. You want proper scouts who, you know, the specialists at it. And we're proud, and I'll stand my ground with anybody because I've been taught properly and I'm passionate about it. And I make sure I follow and keep up with the latest trends. And that gets added into the IPSO courses. And, you know, it's a bit of a joke. Sometimes I get students coming back after a few years to learn more because they know the courses have changed.
Yeah.
The game's changed, and you've got to keep that. It's not just about a money-making scam just to make money. You've got to teach these people. And then we went out a way to get CPD credits on our certificates, so for university, so you get points. With a credit system, it costs us a lot of money, but it's a lot. It doesn't matter. It's about making sure that the players, the kids, the parents, whoever comes on, some parents have come on to help the players. A lot of agents are coming on. They're getting clever now, which is good. In the old days, the agents didn't, I know more about football. Now they're getting wise, and they're spending a bit of the money to make sure they're as clued up as a scout. Because what does an agent need? A scout.
Yeah.
And what you don't if you know how to scout.
Yeah. So when we approached you, Colin, was there anything that sort of what made you say yes to the partnership to Footballers Global?
What I liked about it, I thought it was new and fresh. And I like your enthusiasm, but the main thing was the game's changing, right? And scouting's changing at the time because video was coming in, weren't it? And in the old days, there were no video. In the old days, you used to just go and watch the players. Now, everything's video. I know loads of scouts who don't go to games, and they'll watch 20 videos, 30 videos, then they'll go to 2 games. Everything is video, video, video. So when you come out with that idea, I actually said to you, I remember saying, what a good idea. I thought it was a brilliant idea. And I thought we can help with that. And, you've gone on to bigger and better things.
So the encouragement is out there to say to the players to footage. Is that the most important place to start? Because of players, they message us and they send information and stuff, and the first thing that I automatically think is, where's the footage? Because I could pretend that I was on paper the best player in the world, but it's the footage alongside the CV that brings it together. Because I'm a fan of old school scouting. I loved down the park in the rain, seeing the scouts, a man with his dog. I love all that. So, Footballers Global, we're not into the huge data with the heat maps and the arrows all over the place.
Robert, can I just say this? Right, this is what people don't understand. Most of your audience are young kids, aren't they? Right? You don't get data on kids.
Exactly.
Even if you did, right? This is the interesting bit. Let's imagine that I'm making this up. Blackburn Rovers have data on every kid from 10 to 23. It would be pointless. Why? Because that 10-year-old, after 2 or 3 weeks, that data will have to be changed because he's improved. Are you with me? The data's not accurate because they're improving all the time. Where when you get players 23 upwards around the first team, they usually are genuinely what they are, and they're just a few tweaks. And the data and stats start to come into it then. But we know what the player is. But when they're a kid, wow, they evolve so fast. A month is a lot. 12 months is massive in a kid's life in football.
Well, hence why I like the old school scouting. And I think with Footballers Global, you've got the footage on footage on your mobile phones. I mean, the cameras are fantastic now. A little bit of editing, they put together a highlight along with a CV. And then where we want the link from Footballers Global is out to your scouts, for the scouts to say, look at this kid, I'm going to go down the park and watch him. Like it was back in the day.
I think a good idea, and you can mention this, a good idea would be, if I was going to advise a young kid to put a video on yours, and you put a video on, but also put in some writing, your weak points. Need to improve in this area, need to improve in that area, because nobody's perfect. And and the scouts are not looking for the perfect player. They're looking for players they can develop or they can improve. Everybody's got a weakness. And if I see a player and, let's just say he's got an attitude problem, it's just an arm round. It's just an arm, be a father figure, mentor, and get this attitude problem out. And then, he wants to kick lumps out of players. You've got to get him stopping doing it. Once he understands that, then happy days, he can move on. But if they're showing that or explaining they've got weak links, then people watching can say, right, we've got a coach at the club who can fix that. Etc. etc. I just need a bit more game knowledge. I'm super fast, I have great touch, but I don't really understand 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 played in different ways. I don't understand what inverted fullbacks are. It's only being honest. You don't expect it to at 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
Just be open.
Well, I mean, this sort of leads us on to the last question, and you just sort of touched on it there a little bit. What would your advice be to a young player out there that's trying to make it from your perspective? Obviously they have the platform, Footballers Global, they have an opportunity to put their show.
Well, do
in.
you know what? Do you know
How
what?
can they stand out?
Sorry,
What would
sorry.
what would be the key? Other than videos and showcasing themselves with their videos, what would be the key advice that you would give any up and coming footballer?
Right, less is more. Number one, less is more. Right, meaning playing off people. Young kids don't realize playing off one touch looks 10 times better than holding onto the ball 3 or 4 or 5 touches, because it shows vision, it shows awareness, it shows technique, it shows touch control, game knowledge, everything playing off one touch. Now, obviously, it's very difficult to play off one touch. If you can play off 1 or 2 touch, you look like a pro already. Yeah.
Mm.
If you're holding on to the ball because you want to show me you can do a drag back, you can nutmeg someone, you want to drop a shoulder, and you want to do that. That's not that impressive. Even though it will be a little bit impressive, but my thought process would be less is more. Try and play off one touch, right? Try and have a look where you're going to pass the ball before you pass it. Try not to give the ball away. That's the secrets, right? But the big one is when you do your video, get all your good bits. And at the end, just put a couple, and this kids will find this hard to do, where your weaknesses are. Do you know what that's going to do to a scout? I'm going to look at that and go, this kid's honest.
Mm.
I can fix that. That's nothing. That's nothing big. It's nothing major. But now you're not getting. Oh, you know what a scout hates? Look at my video. All these best bits, all these goals and stuff.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
what you need to see is warts and all to see a player.
yeah, yeah,
The first thing they're going to say is, "Oh, I like you because the video's brilliant. Come
yeah,
and see it." But then we're not looking at the good bits. We're looking at all your warts. But if you already put them on, it gives a little bit more of an even keel.
yeah. It's that righty quote, isn't it? It's every player looks good on YouTube,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
But how? I mean, how many CVs or how many players do you get put in front of that actually do that? Because I'm sure there's not very many.
No, no. But I tell you what, if our club's if I'm working for a club like Middlesbrough, like I've done in the past, and they want me, they're interested in a player, they will get the video and they'll put all the good bits and the worst bits together, so we can have a look. So then when we go, we can zoom in on the worst bits to have a lot more detail about what they're about. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's basically looking at warts and all.
So areas of improvement,
Yeah.
like as opposed to, yeah. I mean, I guess from a professional perspective, you wouldn't put on your CV you're terrible at PowerPoint or need work or
No,
could,
you wouldn't do. No,
uh,
you wouldn't do that. You
it's
might say,
it'd be
from a
different. You just want them to be honest, I guess.
yeah. I would put, look, I'm 13. I think I'm a good 1 and 2 touch central. I'm making this up. 1 and 2 touch central midfield player. I lack a bit of height and physicality at the moment, but I am only 14. I'm hoping that will come in the future, and I'm trying to play off 1 and 2 touch so I don't get smashed because my physicality is not quite there. And I just need a little bit of game knowledge, on the defensive side.
Yeah, like
How good's that?
focusing on your
Little
attitude,
things.
focusing on my right foot because I'm very left-footed, or
Yeah.
working on. So I guess there's definitely different ways of putting it in a more positive way. But
I think
good
it's
advice.
a, it's, it's a case of putting it to catch the eye. So
Yeah,
the
it's
scout looking at it looks at him and goes, "What an honest kid this lad is," or
Mm.
an honest father who's put the video on, or agent, or whoever it is, coach, whoever it is. But they're being honest. They're not just showing one dimension.
Where's the shortage of players? As in, what area of good players would you say
Well,
in this country?
I don't know. I don't believe there is.
Got to
I
be
think,
Tottenham.
No, no, not as in teams, as in
no, I know what you're saying.
you watch loads of matches and like there's there's very few left
Well,
wingers that are very good, but there's a flood of
I think
centre halves, or
that's an odd one. I think, Liam, that goes in circles.
there's no good strikers really, are there? There's a shortage of strikers.
It goes in circles. It goes in circles. That 1 minute there's a load of good strikers, 1 minute there's not. Swings and roundabouts. That depends who the team is playing for. And I'll give you an example. I could see a striker, all right, and I've never thought he was any good. And then here we go. You answer this question. Joe Blogg's a striker, 20 years of age, playing for Altrincham. Right? I'm just making this up. he scores 10, 12 goals a season, striker. All of a sudden, the next season, he scores 25. Why has he changed from 10 to 12 to 25? Well, if you go and watch Altrincham, in those games before, they had two wingers who dribbled and were inverted and were coming in to score. Now they've got two wingers who just automatically get crosses in. The ammunition's more, the service is better, so he's getting more chances. So you have to look at the team they're playing with and the way they play. Alan Shearer, there's a quick story for you. Alan Shearer, when he was at Blackburn, had the choice of wingers. He talked to Dalglish and he said, "What sort of wingers do you want?" And he says, "I don't want them wingers who dilly-dally on the wing. They've got to be wingers who get it and whip it in. Otherwise, Alan Shearer's already made his run." Now, if you imagine that kid who get 10, 12 goals at the start of the season, right, he's only getting 10, 12 goals because he hasn't got the right wingers. And all of a sudden he plays in a team that has,
Yeah.
it all changes. And that's what you got to look at the bigger picture. And that's one thing we teach, to look at the bigger picture, because you're not looking at the player. You're looking at the player at the side of him. You look at the players against. You're looking at the team. You're looking at the unit in midfield or the fullback behind him. There's so many variants that has an effect on that player. And this is where the attention to detail comes in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully in the future, Colin, we'll get a few players on, and we could get some of our players together on these calls, and
I'll tell you what, Robert,
pick
I've got a
the
great
brain.
idea. You're going to like this. Why don't you get a player on? Let's put his video on and let's talk about it.
Yeah, we got a couple of players in the pipeline that are getting sort of interviewed and stuff, and we'll try and find someone suitable.
There's a couple of academy players that we might get on, so we'll see if they'll dare to come under your scrutiny.
Hey, listen, I'm going to be very, very nice, but I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, but that's what it's all
Sometimes you need
about.
that.
I'll send you a couple of my son's videos. You can tell me.
Okay, no, send them. I'll give you some advice, but you might not like what I'm going to say.
Oh, fine. I'd rather.
I'm going to tell the truth.
You can go and watch him. I'll tell you when he's playing. You can go and watch him.
All right, no problem, Neil.
Yeah, no, we'll think about doing that. We'll pick a player. We've got a few coming on, and we'll kind of we'll decide a level, and we'll decide to see what footage these guys have got, and we could maybe do something in the future with them on, and pick him apart.
You need a 2-minute clip of his best bits or worst bits, a montage of a lot of different things. And then we can go down and we can say, that was good, that one, look at this. And you'll be surprised at what he might think's a good, I might think are bad, and what he thinks bad, actually it's not bad at all, it's quite good. And you'll be surprised on that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's that non-bias training, isn't it, Colin? It's that non-bias kicking in.
Bias. Jump on it the next time.
It's true. I mean, until I sort of started all this, I look at football a little bit deeper now and a bit different, than I did a few years ago, because I've learned, and just by having conversations like this, you learn. But you'll see a goal and everyone will think so and so has just done something blinding, and it's sort of for me, I'm looking at the guy who didn't even touch the ball, because it was his run.
Yeah, that's what you should be doing.
That made it happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So everyone's like, what a goal. And I'm thinking,
so who's the interesting player? The one who made the run.
Who didn't even touch the ball. So when you start going back to look at the statistics, there's no statistics for that guy, because he didn't touch the ball, he didn't assist, he didn't do nothing. He just pulled about 2 or 3 players out to create the space.
Yeah. We have a video on one of our workshops, and it's one of those where this kid puts a tackle in, but another guy told him to. So who's the most interesting player? The guy who told him to, because that kid wouldn't have put that tackle in if the guy who told him to. And so the other kid alongside him was screaming at him to get across and get a tackle in. He goes across, gets a brilliant tackle in, but everybody will be thinking that kid who tackles the good player, when he's actually not. It's the player who told him.
Yeah,
the John Terry types.
Yeah, same scenario. But I've started to, and that is something that we do need to get over to the kids. And
it's interesting you say that about the Rob, was you referring to the Trossard goal?
No, do you know, I've seen it a few times. It was an international game that I watched, and And I think, do you know what? I don't even know if it probably weren't England because we don't score many good goals. But it was just one forward. He's just literally made the run all the way across the box. The centre back has caught him. The right back's caught him, and both of them have just followed this guy.
Yeah.
And he's just created space for the ball to be pinged in. It was a lovely goal, but for me, it was that runner that should get the credit for it. But no one, he got nothing.
Because they highlighted it because there's a lot of, I don't know what, I mean, obviously I watch Arsenal more closely, but they talk about the set piece specialist, and they always seem to be, because we've scored a lot of goals from corners, then they like go to the touchline. It's like, oh, this guy, he's like, he's earning his money and all this kind of thing. But then they, what it's like on Match of the Day or any of these things. They spoil it for everyone because they dissect all the hard work that's done on the training ground and show the rest of the league, everyone out there, what's been done. But example of what I thought you were talking about, Robert, was the Trossard scenario from the free kick, where he's blocking, and not only blocking, he pulls away and he takes two players away, but he never scored the goal. But the value in that, is incredible, and it's what you say, the off the ball movement is really important. But do you feel that, sorry, Colin, just going back to, I mean, a lot of these positions and a lot of these opportunities and roles within football seem to have sort of popped up as the game has become more and more technical, whereas 15, 20 years ago, I could be wrong, but I don't think of free kick or set piece specialist ever existed in the game, right? Was it?
They didn't because the manager did everything. But now you've got a guy for everything. You've got Liverpool's got a long throw specialist. We've got videos of it on our course.
That's incredible.
Hey, but where this is the interesting bit, it'll blow you away when you see it. It's amazing.
I can imagine. But I mean, you see the impact of players that do have an incredibly, it's as good as a corner, if not better. But
can I just tell you this? Do you know where it come from? Basketball, right? Because this specialist, who's a Danish guy, he started studying basketball, and when the ball goes out of playing basketball, there's that much movement, they have to throw it right, otherwise it's not going to go to. So it's the same with footballers. If you don't throw it right, he can't control it right. Are you with me? And when it's come to him, there has to be movement off him, second and third runners from the throw. It's fascinating.
Like a ball, yeah. Wow, I didn't realize it went that deep.
It does at that level, though. But we're talking top level.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and obviously, it's like every little aspect of the game needs to be analysed, and if it warrants that role, then it's super.
That's what I learned. Mad. I learned something when Tony came on, the goalkeeper specialist, right? I've always been taught that the captain's the organizer. He organises everything, blah, 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 blah. But when you're in the box, your team's box, defending a free kick or a corner, it's the keeper who's now the captain, not the captain. Because you're in his house. He's the boss.
Yeah.
So that anything goes wrong in that box with man marking, it's the keeper's fault, not the captain's. Are you with me?
Yeah.
It's the keeper, because the keeper should be saying, you get him, you get him, you get him. And it's so fascinating how the keeper can set up wrong and concede a goal because of his setup. Yeah. It's fascinating when you see it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at that, and we'll definitely try and line something up for that.
I think it'd be fun.
Not so distant future. And yeah, again, it's been fantastic having you on and sharing everything about IPSO and the courses that you do. And yeah, if anybody wants to get involved or wants to contact Colin, we will put his details in the box below, so you can reach out and also check the IPSO website out.
No, just thanks, Colin, for coming on, and hopefully we'll do some more with you soon.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime with you guys.
Perfect. Thanks, Colin. If you have yet to check out footballersglobal.com, follow the link in the comments section below, or visit us at www.footballersglobal.com.